Adventurers far and wide are preparing for Phase 4 in Icecrown Citadel. They're getting full bisque gear, they're preparing to level new alts with the RDF system, and they're stacking mountains of consumables. After all, the Lich King isn't going to just drop dead and give you Invincible and Shadowmourne. If you want to actually slay the Lich King once and for all before Sylvanas comes back to kill him a second time, you'll have to be prepared. That's why I've compiled the last-minute Adventurer's Guide to Phase 4, and it's full of tips you can't afford to miss. Chapter 1. Maximizing RDF. In Phase 4, we have the new Gamma dungeons, which give out Defiler Scourge Stones from every boss. These Scourge Stones can be turned into the new vendor to receive BIS items like Flare of the Heavens. You can even get 245 versions of TOC trinkets like Reign of the Dead. Mechanics-wise, the Gamma system is very similar to the beta dungeons from last phase. I still recommend using a weak aura pack to make the experience stress-free though, and I've linked one below the video. Combining Gamma with the new Random Dungeon Finder is your ultimate key to success on fresh and existing characters alike. With the new RDF system, you can queue infinitely for Gamma dungeons and get fully geared out in minimal time. You can queue with random players or have a set group if you want to maximize clear speed. If you're on a fresh character, you'll have to be above 200 item level to do Gamma via the RDF system, and that number may go higher at launch. Luckily, you can get 238 item level Furious gear just from Honor now, which easily puts you above the requirements. Even if you're already fully best in slot, you'll still want to queue RDF to obtain Primordial Serenite at a rate of 12 Scourge Stones per Serenite. This Serenite will be used in the new BOE boots and legs, which are better than anything your character has right now. While you're queuing for RDF, also don't forget the daily heroic quest for 2 Emblems of Frost alongside the 3 from the bonus bounty satchel. I'd also definitely recommend hitting the weekly raid quest as well, where you make a raid group and kill an old boss like Sartharion. Chapter 2. Professions. Prepared players are getting their professions ready due to the big changes that are coming. The biggest change is that most of the tailoring and mining cooldowns are gone. That means profit from things like Titan Steel will be completely crushed down. The exception is that the Glacial Bag CD still exists for some reason, even though Blizzard is giving us a new 24-slot vendor bag to make it obsolete. As for raiding, most raid-focused players are still prioritizing engineering and jewel crafting to maximize stats. However, some top speedrun guilds are making 5 players per raid group switch to leatherworking. That's because you can boost the raid with drums of speed and go a lot faster. As for money making, gold makers are prioritizing cooking, enchanting, and alchemy due to high demand at the start of the phase. I even recently bought the chef's hat with 20 waterlogged recipes, and I've been crafting thousands of fish feasts for 80 silver profit each. Back on the topic of enchanting though, everybody will be getting 3 separate sets of tier 10 gear, so that means 3 times more chest enchants. Alchemy, meanwhile, is hot due to the insanely high raid difficulty, since everybody will need far more potions than they do in Trial of the Crusader. We also can't forget the new recipes, which will be available for honored and revered Ashen Verdict reputation. There's always going to be a solid profit margin on crafted BOEs, especially if you're willing to farm the Primordial Serenite yourself via the RDF system. Chapter 3. Consumables. Okay, so we just talked about how alchemy is a hot gold maker because of the high raid difficulty in ICC. That really is the ultimate understatement. The newest round of PTR data shows that Putricide Heroic had almost 4,000 wipes with only 84 kills. With all those wipes, every type of consume will be skyrocketing. I've been stockpiling potions of speed and wild magic since their usage will go way up. You'll also want to have multiple sets of enchanting vellums and epic gems for every gear slot. If you can't afford to enchant your gear because prices have doubled, it'll really ruin your enjoyment of the phase. Chapter 4. Gold. That brings us to gold, because having money to spend is the most important tip for Phase 4. For one thing, gold is the key to unlock near best-in-slot leg and boot BOEs. I do recommend farming most of the Primordial Serenite yourself, but you can save hours buying them on the auction house too. This phase also has far more tradable BIS items than previous raids, and they'll cost tens of thousands of gold each. Speaking of BOEs, gold is also the key to getting yourself a battered hilt for the Quell de Lar questline. If you still haven't gotten a BIS weapon yet, getting a 251 weapon like Quell de Lar will save you hours of time. If you want to save even more time, subscribe, because we've got a lot more Phase 4 videos coming, and all I want to do with these videos is save you from wasting time and effort. Chapter 5. Raid Planning. The most overlooked step when planning for any phase is raid prep and planning. Making sure you have the updated ICC Thames Weak Aura pack is the first step, since these fights are almost impossible without timers. Then you should make sure all your characters have a 25-man raid ready to go. That's because missing the first lockout will set you far behind the rest of the raiding population. Unless you're in a world record speedrun guild, you should aim to do all the normal modes as your primary goal. There are some exceptions though for easier fights like Gunship or Festergut. The gear really isn't all that different, and it's much better to hit all your lockouts than to be stuck on Putricide Heroic for 10 hours. You should also be aiming to hit all the 10-man lockouts the first week with a set group of players so you don't disband halfway into the raid. 10-mans are crucial for gear and for getting reputation for your BIS 277 item level Ashen Verdict rep ring. If you want that exalted ring week 1, you'll also have to plan to hit a trash farm early on. Trash farms are where you do the first room over and over again and you reset the raid for reputation and BOEs. Be able to make gold and get exalted in only a few hours. So you just finished book 1 full of last minute phase 4 tips, but if you really want to raid like a pro player, you have to check this video out next.